The first pro with this 2022 VW Tiguan is the sheer amount of space in the interior. I can legitimately stretch my legs out completely straight in the back seat, and I am 5'11". Admittedly, I do sit a little bit closer to the steering wheel than most people my size, but regardless, it is very impressive the amount of leg room that you have in the back of this Tiguan. And the same thing goes for the trunk as well. It is a massive trunk. The Tiguan is the only vehicle in the class amongst the RAV4, the CR-V, the Hyundai Tucson, Kia Sportage, all these vehicles, the CX-5 Mazda, to offer a 3-row. That's how massive this car is. Now granted, this car isn't large enough to accommodate 3 rows, so the 3rd row is going to be useless, but it just shows you how massive this interior space is. The second pro is going to be the fact that VW gives you a lot of standard features like heated front seats and blind spot monitoring. All that stuff is standard, and I do appreciate that. But a major con is going to be just how unrefined this engine is. It is so loud and so rattly. I don't appreciate that. It is a turbocharged 4-cylinder producing 184 horsepower and 221 pounds-feet of torque. It certainly does have some low-end torque. The engine is more than enough potent for city driving, highway driving. I don't have an issue with that, but I just wish it was a little bit quieter. Another big pro and highlight to the Tiguan is how well it handles. There's hardly any body roll with it. The occupants, they remain neutral. You don't feel car sick when you ride in this car. They've done a very good job in balancing excellent handling demeanor with a pretty good ride quality. I will admit, when you go over some larger bumps, you do feel it, and this is the SEL with the R-Line package with the 20-inch wheels, but even still, it does a good job over the smaller bumps. It's just over the larger bumps, it might translate into the cabin space a little bit more than it should, but for the most part, it's not bad. It's not an offensive ride quality. It's not going to bother most people. You could get the S model or the SE model, which is what I recommend most people to get. Those models will come with 17-inch wheels or 18-inch wheels, so it can help out with the ride quality a little bit more, but this is totally acceptable if you like the way it looks, which it does look pretty amazing. Go for it. It is $38,000, so it's a little bit steep. Another con is going to be like this plasticky interior space. It does feel a little bit budget because of that, but for the most part, it is put together pretty well. Feels pretty solid in here, aside from this little rattle that I get from this driver's side seatbelt area. Kind of rattles a little bit, very annoying, but outside of that, everything else feels very solid. For the most part, I do like the ergonomics. I think that is a pro. For many people, they might think that the touch capacitive buttons in here would be a con, but to be honest, Volkswagen did a pretty good job with this. It's not super annoying. I got used to it right away. It just feels like you're using traditional buttons anyway, so that's why I don't really mind it. It is extra, it is kind of unnecessary, but it is what it is. I got used to it, wasn't a big deal. Everything is easy to use, like the infotainment screen, the HVAC controls, the steering controls, all that is easy. The gauge cluster screen, we do have the 10.25-inch screen because this is the SEL. However, that is a little bit more difficult to use. They kind of went a little too, say, minimalistic with the screens. I do like the seating position. That's another part of the ergonomics I really like. That's a huge pro. Visibility is great. It's very easy to drive this car. So you get to enjoy all this massive space on the interior, but physically just driving the car, it feels like almost like it's half its size. Other things to note, I like how in every VW/Audi product, I am pretty much able to beat the EPA estimate. This car is rated to do 21 in the city and 28 on the highway. I've been able to beat that without even trying. I'm still getting over 21 in the city, and I'm doing like 30 mpg out on the highway. So if you are like everybody else and you do drive 10-15 miles an hour below the speed limit, I wouldn't be surprised if you were getting like 24-25 in the city and like 32 plus mpg out on the highway. That's totally possible in this, I feel like. Another pro is going to be the safety. I love the fact that this is a IIHS top safety pick. Putting your family in here, it's going to be less stressful knowing that this is actually a safe car, right? Safe family vehicle, so that's good. A con is going to be this Fender audio system. It doesn't sound that great. They keep touting that it's a 480 watt system. It kind of sounds abysmal, not that great, not worth upgrading to this. That's another reason why I don't really think it's worth paying up for the SEL model to just get this Fender audio. Not worth it. Another pro is going to be just how quiet this car is. It doesn't even have double pane glass here. However, it is so quiet. There is pretty much no wind noise with it, which is very impressive. It just makes for a non-fatiguing driving experience, you know, putting miles on this thing. And speaking of miles, leasing this is probably going to be the best way to go because Volkswagen tends to offer pretty good lease deals on this, like 0 money down, no money down deals, and pretty affordable payments. A lot of people in the comment section, I've noticed that they're taking advantage of those deals, and that's one of the reasons why they would go with a Volkswagen product as opposed to something else that might even be going for over sticker price in today's market, right? I like the fact that Volkswagen gives you some affordable lease options, certainly something to take advantage of. And would I recommend this car? I would actually. In the Volkswagen lineup, the Tiguan is my most favorite SUV. I would choose it over the Taos all day long, especially on a lease. That's for sure. Try to get the best vehicle possible, right? On a lease, it just makes sense. But the Taos is maybe like $3,000 to $4,000 cheaper starting price compared to this, but it is worth paying that $3,000 to $4,000. You get a significantly more superior driving experience with the Tiguan, and I would skip the Atlas as well. I prefer driving the Tiguan to the Atlas all day long. It really does have a great handling characteristic to it. The steering feels natural. Everything about it is truly superb from a driving standpoint, aside from that kind of obnoxious 4-cylinder sound that you get, right? So I do recommend it, and if you are an owner of this car, please let me know your thoughts. But if you want to see my full review on this car, check the end screen here, and I will see you there.